Nigel Peltier is the 2025 North American Scrabble Champion, and he certainly had a difficult path to victory, taking down defending champion Mack Meller in the best of 5 finals 3 games to 2, and only qualifying for that match by taking down the other Nigel in a must-win game. But prior to that clincher, his round 27 game against 2022 finalist Ori Swift inspired former champion and streaming commentator Josh Sokol to say this.
This might be the most incredible comeback of all time.
Heading into the last 2 games of day 4, Nigel P would likely need to win both of his next 2 games to make the finals, turning the game you're about to see into an absolute must-win for both players. With the first move, Ori draws the first blank and has only one playable bingo. True to form, he spots it. Leg hold for 76. Meanwhile, Nigel's tiles are horrendous, and he only has a couple words worth putting on the board. He picks the best of those choices in oof for 18, hoping for some relief. Ori's tiles aren't great either after his bingo, but he at least has 2 S's to work with, and he plays Beck for 18 to block the open E and Gun for a leg holds bingo. The relief Nigel needs doesn't come, and while something like Agio might be more standard, he plays Cog for 15 instead, possibly aiming to play through the C and open more space at the top of the board later. Ori draws only 1 vowel, and with 2 S's still in hand, he can afford to spend one for a relatively lower score, which he does with Fast for 21. Although this play might signal that Ori has another S in reserve, Nigel decides to stay aggressive facing an early deficit and plays his top scoring move of Endow for 24, setting up a big S hook. With Joe available for 41 for Ori, he instead plays Joust for 50, scoring 9 more points and taking out the Endow's hook in case Nigel is setting up an S of his own. Nigel can answer with Dury here for 29, putting good bingo tiles out in space. That move would use up all of his good bingo tiles though, so he plays Rude for 27, keeping the R to potentially play parallel to Fast with the ER suffix if he can draw an E. Ori can answer with Lav for 22, which looks solid, but perhaps balking at keeping an I with only one of them already on the board, he plays Vino instead for 14, opening nothing new to Nigel. Nigel's tiles go from bad to worse with 3 I's and 2 R's. Fortunately, he does have a decent bailout in Icier, which sheds 2 of the I's and opens the board a bit further. This move does make a nice scoring spot for Ori's F, which he uses with Fard for 31. Incredibly, Nigel's tiles get even worse, prompting the commentators to say this.
These might be the worst racks I've ever seen anyone draw on stream. Nigel pulls out a victory in this game with the draws he's been having. That might be the most impressive feat ever shown live in a Scrabble tournament.
He exchanges down to just AR, desperately needing to land the next bingo of the game. It's Ori who gets that draw though, playing Analyze for 86 on the top row. With the score now 296 to 100, computer analysis gives Ori a 99.8% chance to win here, and the commentators certainly agreed, speculating that Nigel's finals dream was clearly dead, and third place would now be the best he could hope for.
Oh, wow.
Ori's going to play Analyze in
Yep.
2 seconds, and this game is
Yes.
probably close to over. For those wanting a Nigel versus Nigel final, I don't think it's happening at this point.
The Nigel finals might have to be the third place finals instead of the first place finals. This game, looking pretty over, would take an absolute miracle for Nigel Peltier to find his way back into it.
In situations this grim, it's tough to keep on fighting, but Nigel does just that with his top move of How for 31. Still, he'll likely need multiple bingos to even get his winning chances back on life support. Unbeknownst to him, he gets a break in the form of Ori's Q draw. With only a couple of places to play it for only 11 points, both of which leave horrendous tiles, Ori decides to play Stroll for 16, hoping to draw anything that could improve the Q next turn. At last, Nigel draws his first bingo of the game and plays it quickly. Lemurine for 72, skyrocketing his winning percentage to still well under 1%. Ori draws solid tiles after Stroll and could elect to play teams for a very solid 37 points, but with several spots to dump his cue for 11, he picks the most defensive of the three, blocking some disaster scenario double-doubles, and perhaps sometimes drawing into metates as a likely game ender. To Ori's horror and Nigel's delight, the second blank finds its way onto Nigel's rack, and he spots his top-scoring bingo of Deviator for 88 to take another huge chunk out of his deficit, finally getting him somewhere in winning percentage. Ori still has teams available to push his lead up as high as possible. Instead, he makes a creative play of meat for 18, keeping the excellent EST leave for very good bingo chances, and thanks to the E of meat forming R, opening a sneaky spot for the 46-point reanalyze if he were to draw the final R from the bag. Nigel doesn't have that R, but what he does have is piano for a very solid 41 points, by far his best move here. Ori draws the X, normally a welcome sight. Here, it stops him from playing a potentially game-ending bingo, and he has to dump it for 29, hoping for one more balanced draw. Nigel is now down by 38, and with only one tile remaining in the bag, he's in a tough spot. In fact, it's hard to see how he can win this game from here. He could just play off his Z and hope to draw the T, which would give him rebating and beating in several different spots that Ori would not be able to block all at once. But he has one and only one move that appears to be any better, and amazingly, he spots it. Tsigain for 54 points.
Can he do the math though and figure out?
He's not doing the math. He's just going.
He's not doing the math. He's just putting.
Holy crap!
Oh my gosh! He says, "Screw it. The score's so much. I'm just putting it down."
Make no mistake, Nigel is still in a dire situation after this move. Ori is extremely likely to have Wristy or Waste hooking this play for more than enough points to win most endgames. And if the Y is in the bag, he'll have Weariest through the E for a game-winning out bingo. But if the S is in the bag, Nigel will threaten Snub and Bex for a solid 19-point outplay. The only move Ori would have that outruns this play would be Watery for 40. But this move would give Nigel an even better outplay back of Buys, leading to a 4-point Nigel win. The only other non-S tile that Nigel can hope for here is the W. And that is the tile that he actually draws in this game. Ori has two 40-point plays available. The reanalyze play he was hoping for earlier is now playable. Unfortunately for him, Nigel's response of Web for 16 will score enough and collect just enough points from Ori's unplayed letters that Nigel will beat this play by 2 points. With that move off the table, Ori goes so far as to place his other 40-point move of Re-Say on the board. The problem with this option is that Re-Say now makes Nigel's outplay of Web hit even harder, a 29-point outplay that gives Nigel another narrow win. In fact, the best Ori can do here is tie this game, which he can do with any 30-point play paralleling Tsigain like Yeti. However, with his clock ticking to its final seconds and needing a win to stay in tournament contention, Ori plays Sayer instead, perhaps expecting the 8-point Web as an outplay. Nigel quickly finds his lone winning move, Brew for 18, completing his absolutely stunning comeback with a final score of 408 to 405. These are the types of games you need to win in order to win a national championship, and Nigel deserves huge credit for continuing to fight his hardest in a bleak situation and convert this hopeless-looking game into a pivotal win. This is one of the craziest comebacks I've ever seen in a Scrabble game, and even if he hadn't gone on to win the championship this year, it's easy to see that Nigel Peltier truly has the heart of a champion. What happened next just made that fact even clearer.